This is Northwest Reports. I'm Maliha Sayed.
And I'm Sarah Bernard. This is the second episode of The Elephant in the Room, a three-part series that explores Washington's Republican Party leading up to and following the 2024 election. Republicans, as we know, saw a decisive victory on the national stage. In Washington, though, it was almost the opposite.
We wanted to understand what it's like to be a Republican in a state that, at least in recent years, consistently votes for Democrats, and how Republicans here navigate the impact that Donald Trump has had on the party.
In the last episode, you heard from a few people who have distanced themselves from Donald Trump and cast some doubt on the strength of Washington's Republican Party.
Until the Republican Party disavows Trump, makes a big break and says, we're done with MAGA, we're turning the page, we're going a different direction. That's the only way that Republicans become relevant again on the West Coast.
This episode is going to sound a little different. We went to a GOP watch party in Bellevue on election night, and there was a lot of enthusiasm.
People were excited to be together, and many of them were pumped about Trump.
But the biggest thing for him is that he's pro-America. Like, he wants whatever he's a part of to be the best. He's kind of that guy, and so I really actually respect that.
We got a chance to talk to some of these attendees and hear their thoughts on the Republican Party.
And it turns out that even in the bluest region of one of the bluest states, there's a big Republican presence and a lot of optimism about the party's future.
Wall Street Journal is calling North Carolina for Donald Trump. Got that one too.
We made it to the Washington GOP watch party at the Bellevue Hyatt a little before 7 on election night. There was already a pretty big crowd when we got to the hotel's Regency Ballroom, where huge screens showed voting results as they rolled in, and speakers hopped up to the podium to energize event-goers.
Government of the people, by the people, and for the people!
Which wasn't too hard, as it was definitely a winning night for Republicans nationally.
Donald Trump is winning the popular vote by more than 4 percentage points.
My friends, if there's something you leave this room with tonight, is building on this momentum, because This is huge, huge stuff.
Local races, though, were unfolding differently.
I just got an update. This one's from Senator Drew McEwing. He says, tonight I called Congresswoman-elect Emily Randall and offered her my congratulations. Not good news in that one.
Dave Reichert is in the house. Dave Reichert.
What's going on?
I know that Bob Ferguson has already declared victory, but he declared victory, 6 months ago, right? The numbers don't look good for us right now. But I do believe that God has a plan.
You have to remember, you're not going to flip Washington State in one night.
This is a tough state, and it's gotten tougher.
And so, while so many national races went Republican, the GOP here in Washington hammered home a clear message, not unlike the one national Democrats were offering that night. Keep fighting.
I want you to stay and fight. We need to stay and fight.
You fight for the Constitution. You fight for your kids and their constitutional rights.
Dave Reichert's going to stay here and fight with you. I don't know what that looks like yet. But we are going to fight.
Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of the Republican Party here?
Yeah, so I got involved in 2006. But the first campaign I really got involved was Rob McKenna running for governor. So 2010, I was a district chair in the 43rd legislative district, which is the heart of downtown. It's got Fremont, South Capitol Hill, Madison Park, the Green Lake, so very liberal area. But
this is Matthew Patrick Thomas. He's chairman of the King County Republican Party, meaning he's spent a long time trying to get GOP momentum going in the bluest part of a blue state. But Thomas says that there are actually a lot of Republicans in the area, too, They just aren't as vocal about their political stance.
So many times I've been knocking on doors for candidates in Seattle, and they go, I'm voting Republican, but just don't tell my neighbor. So I always say it's funny about Republicans. They're it's closet Republicans. That's a real thing in Seattle, and I understand it too. As a guy that had a Rob McKenna bumper sticker on my car, I got my whole car was keyed, and so there's that element being in Seattle too. So it's just it's a tough area, but when you're looking at numbers for statewide, in Seattle, you're looking for 23 to 25% of the vote is what we're fighting for in King County. So if we can get 25% towards our state candidate, then we're doing good. And then on the county-wide, you're looking for around 37 to 39%. You get that, then the candidate's going to win, a very good shot at winning. So that's what we're fighting for. So
that's the math that Republicans are looking at when it comes to King County. But given that it's the most populous county in Washington, we wondered what it's like to try to overcome that in a statewide race.
King County is frustrating for Republicans, and as I go around the state, even Eastern Washington, like, you King County guys, I'm like, guys, I'm your frontline gladiator. It's easy to go live in Stevens County or Okanagan County and go knock on doors. Now you got the battles in Seattle, the battles in King County, the battles 1 and 4. The battle that's what you're fighting for. So we're your frontline troops. It's easy to be a Republican over there, but I'm a lifelong Republican, born and raised, 5th generation Washingtonian, born and raised in Seattle area, grew up in Lake Forest Park. This is my hometown. And as I tell people, the reason I got involved in politics, really got involved, is I saw Seattle, not the same Seattle that I grew up in. We didn't have the homeless crisis that we had in Seattle. We didn't have the fentanyl that we had before. We didn't have the boarded up windows. We didn't have companies leaving in droves. Now, there's a lot to that. There's policy that's contributed to that, but also COVID was another thing that really killed it. But then I would say, here's the argument, folks. If it's just because of COVID, then why is Bellevue thriving? Literally, drive around downtown Bellevue. You might find 1 or 2 homeless people, maybe. You're not going to find graffiti. You're not going to find blue tarps. You're not going to find a tent. You can go to the downtown park, which is absolutely beautiful park, and you're not going to find anyone sleeping, no drugs or nothing.
Thomas guessed that these concerns around public safety are what's leading more voters in Seattle's Chinatown International District to vote Republican, for example. The neighborhood shifted fairly dramatically toward Trump in this year's election compared to the last one.
These public safety issues are also fueling Eric Kirkbride's bid for Seattle mayor in 2025.
I align myself with the Republican Party because they're the party of common sense at the moment, in my opinion. So that's what I'm doing this for. And there's some personal reasons that I'm running for mayor of Seattle. It's because I'm originally from Queens, and seeing what's going on in Seattle now is horrendous. People are dying every day because of drug overdoses. People are homeless. We need to institute programs that help people get back on their feet, help people get back into housing, help people get back into jobs. And the way to do it is not just by doing some tax or, just giving out a free handout. Because to me, it was never about a free handout. It's about a free hand up. Get them back on their feet, get them back into the workforce. No matter what political party they align with, they're still people just like everyone else. And we need to remember that.
Kirkbride is one of a couple people we met at the watch party who used to vote Democrat. He left the party decades ago, but it took him a while to come around to Trump.
I was not a Trump supporter last time. I didn't vote for either party. I was just like, no, I don't care. And then seeing how the last 4 years have gone, when Trump was in office, we had better paying jobs. We had, lower taxes. We had more businesses. We didn't have the crime that we had. I've lived in 7 different states, visited probably 18 other states in the United States and 3 different countries other than the United States. And those countries don't do what we do here when it comes to businesses and everything else. We're pushing out businesses that we need to stay.
We asked pretty much everyone to share their thoughts on the president-elect. Here's Michelle Kane.
Absolutely love Guy. He's like my uncle. I see him like the uncle that everybody has. So like he is a super achiever. This guy is a super achiever that he doesn't have a filter, so he says things. He loves women. He respects women. Everything that's said about him in the media is the exact opposite. He's got a great sense of humor. I watch every interview all the time about the guy, but it's so skewed against him. He's like a really good man. His family loves him, adores him.
Good Trump 2024 shirt. Can you tell me a little bit about what draws you to Donald Trump? What do you like about him?
Well, I have to say his policies.
This is Carrie French.
In 2016, I was a Ted Cruz delegate, so I was not a Trump fan. But I'll tell you what, the one thing with all the crazy, the lawfare, the indictments, the impeachments, the this and the that, and the smearing and calling us Nazis, we are not Nazis. And then calling him a threat to democracy, and, then crazies trying to take him out. When I really fell in love with the man was when he was shot, bleeding, and even though his Secret Service were trying to, pounce on him to protect him, he gets up and says, "Fight, fight, fight." And when I saw that, I'm like, yeah!
Here's the thing I'll say about him is that he shakes things up for both sides just because he was a former Democrat. But the biggest thing for him is that he's pro-America.
And this is Tasha May.
I can get behind that. I mean, I just really can. I mean, also for him, what I appreciate is that he's really rich. So he doesn't need the country, he doesn't need the job, he doesn't need the prestige. And so I like the fact that he can't be controlled by government money. I like the fact that he doesn't even want to fly at Air Force One. He's like, my plane's better. His own wife didn't even want to live in the White House for the first 6 months. Our house is better. And I appreciate that because it means that they're really doing what they're doing because they want to. And that's something that I respect.
We also spoke with Jim Walsh, one of the Republicans who won their race this year. He was reelected to a state representative seat. He's also the chair of the Washington GOP.
Trump has been really vilified by the progressive left in Washington in a nasty personal way. So, they call it Trump derangement syndrome. The dislike, the political opposition to Trump is nasty and personally directed. It's ad hominem opposition. The trouble that the left has here in Washington is they ascribe their personal qualities, their personal moral virtues to their political beliefs. Donald Trump is likely to be elected president this time. He cannot run again because of our constitutional limits on terms for presidents. So the left here in Washington is going to have to find someone else to vilify.
The assassination attempts and legal cases obviously captured the country's attention. But we also wanted to get people's thoughts on the 2024 Republican State Convention in Spokane, the one that we asked Chris Vance and Deanna Martinez about in the last episode.
Boos rang out at the Washington GOP convention in Spokane.
The turmoil at that event, especially when it came to the division over who to endorse for governor, seemed to represent some of the turmoil within the party itself.
It was crazy. So I'm on the executive board, so I know some of the behind-the-scenes stuff going on.
This is Carrie French again. She's been a Republican since she was 16 years old and is pretty active in the GOP. Among other things, she chairs the 33rd Legislative District for the King County GOP and sits on the organization's executive board.
French says hundreds of Reichert delegates didn't show up to the convention, so Semi Byrd supporters tried to seize the opportunity to get Byrd endorsed by the party.
A large majority of Semi Byrd supporters, they went specifically to vote to have the state party endorse him. That's what I think happened, because I wasn't in the room, but I know some people that were. I think a few people promised Dave Reichert that Semi would be disqualified. So
party officials did at one point announce Byrd was disqualified from receiving the endorsement due to a 1993 misdemeanor they said he should have disclosed during the vetting process.
So when they went out on the floor and tried to say that, the people were pissed. They were not happy because they're like, we spent this money, we took 4 days off of work, we've got hotel rooms, we traveled over here, so we could vote for that. So I was disappointed in our party for doing that, because I believe we should be transparent and let the people decide who they want us to endorse. So we had another board member get up and make motion to put Semi Byrd and Dave Reichert back on the ballot so people could vote. And that's what got approved, and then that's why. So it looked chaotic, but right, that's what democracy is, right?
French initially supported Byrd, but pivoted to backing Reichert after Byrd lost in the primary.
I was a Byrd supporter, but he's not the candidate anymore, so now I'm supporting Reichert, and I will vote for Reichert. I think Dave Reichert is a decent man, and he's not extreme.
Other people at the election night watch party also seemed pretty at peace with Reichert, even if Byrd was their first choice. For instance, Eric Kirkbride.
I'm a semi-Byrd supporter, and most people are Reichert supporters, or they voted for him, which got him into, the primary race and whatnot. Unfortunately, there are some disagreements here and there, but as long as we can talk about it and we have a vote, to say, hey, this is what we want, it all works out in the end. Because I know some Reichert supporters that live right around the corner. I'm cool with them. As long as he gets in and he does what's right for Washington, it's all good.
I actually voted for Mr. Byrd the first time around, I'll be honest, and I actually used to work on his campaign.
Again, Tasha May.
And so once he didn't emerge into the general, I, was like, it wasn't about a switch, it was about what I want to do. And Mr. Reichert aligns closer to with what I want for my family. And so, it was, I felt completely okay, although some people in that particular, the Byrd camp, if you will, rejected me. They said I was a traitor, all these weird things. And I said, that's unfortunate. But the bigger picture for me is, what do I want for my family for the next 4 years? What I want for me for the next 4 years? What type of...
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
Thomas, the King County GOP chair, was quoted in an article describing what happened in Spokane as a family feud.
Yeah, definitely. So now when you get into party politics, the activists tend to come from the wings of the party. The Democrats the activists come from the left wing, and the Republicans, a lot of them come from the right wing of the party. So the activists tend to come from the wings. They're not technically the voice of the party. I'm a rare guy, kind of more of a centrist in the party. I'm a pragmatic person. My thing is I don't get worked up about things. All I do is I want our candidates to win. How do we win? And that's at the end of the day, when you look in politics, you can talk about ideals and all this stuff. Like, unless we have legislators in Olympia, unless we have legislators in the U.S. Senate and the House, or we have a president, you don't make a difference. So you can have all the morals and everything, but you can't get the votes and the people don't vote for you, and you don't represent them, you're not going to get elected. So how do we get candidates across the finish line that they can win? The primary election is not the election, and that's where Republicans, I think, have made some errors. We'll go, that guy sounds like a real good Republican. He's going to win the primary, and then he gets smoked in the general. So I always say the party's got to get serious about general elections.
What do you think about that kind of family feud? What do you think it's going to take to bring people together? Do you see that feud continuing, or? Yeah.
Well, so that's a great thing. So the family feud's always been there. So go back to 2012, the Ron Paul revolution, okay? And I was there for that, and I was the Libertarians. And the cool thing about that is he actually brought a lot of young, 18 to 25-year-olds in the party. These young bucks came in the party like, these guys are all libertarians and this and that, but the establishment pushed them away, which I said was a big mistake, because we need young Republicans, but why don't we figure out how we get them in the fold? Yeah, they're a wing of the party, but bring them in, don't push them out. Then you had the Ted Cruz, Mitt Romney debacle. Again, rhinos against the conservatives. We're the real conservatives. You're the fake Republicans. So there was that battle. So now you have Donald Trump comes along. He's a populist president. He wasn't really in the party much. He came in, now he's running. Sammy Byrd was another guy. He wasn't really involved with the party. He kind of came out of left field, and then he's the guy that people got behind. So, but the thing that's changed is that as I've been in politics for 20 years, you always have 10%, I don't care, either party, they just want to burn the house down. You guys suck, the establishment sucks, we know better, and they want to burn, that's always there. But now that's creeping up to 20, 30%. Why is that? And
Thomas has a couple of theories as to why. For one, he thinks Americans don't really have a common enemy anymore, the way they did during the Cold War. So now they're turning on each other.
He also thinks the internet, social media, and talking heads have exacerbated these divisions because, he says, most people would rather turn there for the news than to tune into all the boring parts of politics.
You're not going to want to sit and watch a health hearing forever, or how a transportation budget goes. I mean, literally, it's like, okay, this sucks. This is why I don't want to be a politician. But so what sells? Well, rhetoric sells, being bombastic sells, yelling that we got to take out the establishment, or these guys aren't real, I'm real, and like, good, yeah, my viewership was going up. So I call it political entertainment, and that's what it is, and that's what's really fueling this tribalism. And at the end of the day, what suffers is the people. I mean, whether it be in Washington State or the country, we need our Congress, we need our representatives to work together, find solutions. And it's easy to say you're wrong and I'm wrong and am I right? Good, that's easy. The work is finding the solution, working across the aisle. So we have to get back to that. I hope it does, because if we don't, the country's going to have a tough time for years to come. So I hope we can get that figured out.
Yeah, what do you see coming out of this election, and how do you think that's going to trickle down to the Republican Party here?
So there's the thing. Now, Donald Trump is not the best guy on uniting things right now. And that's actually, I'd say, a little bit on the media as well. I mean, democracy at stake, Nazi, fascism, dictatorship. I heard all that stuff today, and the world's going to end. And that's not going to happen. I believe in our country, our systems, and our checks and balances, the Supreme Court and all that. So I don't see, if either candidate wins, the end of the world happening. And plus, the one thing about the United States, it's like a 10,000-mile train. It doesn't, or a ship. It doesn't turn on a dime. You can veer it a little bit this direction, you can veer it a little that direction. And then actually, if people are really worried about a dictator, President Trump being this and that, don't forget in 2016, we won the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court was conservative. Did the end of the world happen? No. Life went on, and then 4 years later he lost. But nothing catastrophic happened. A lot of things didn't happen when we had no wars. The economy was doing well. Jobs were coming back to the state. There was a little more law and order, I would say. The border was a little more secure. We didn't have as much fentanyl crime across the border. We didn't have cartels bringing gangs across our countries into cities and that. So it's probably going to be a little more like that, I think, than anything doom and gloom. But again, what sells, media sells, and having those rhetoric talking points works, and that's what gets the people out, and actually that's how you mobilize your people maybe too. So the only thing I worry about, not you guys included, but the press has become a little more, whether it's the conservative press or the Democrat press, it's kind of getting a little more into but it feeds into the rhetoric.
I just wonder if, because Trump is a polarizing figure in the state, do you think if he wins or if he loses, I mean, does that impact what you guys do?
Yes, I think President Trump, if he's a president, will have an effect on elections in Washington State. It'll have an effect on elections across the country, because historically, the midterm elections go to the other party. Again, that's that pendulum the United States swings on year after year, and it's pretty actually steady. If you look at the history, it goes back and forth the same way. Republican president, that's midterms go to the Democrats. Democrat president, midterms go to Republicans. So there's that pendulum, and that's again that checks and balances that makes our country the beautiful country that it is, right?
As we now know, on the national front, everything swung red in November. The executive branch, the Senate, the House.
This is enormous. That means Republicans will control the House, the Senate, and...
But like we've said before, things in Washington didn't change too much. Voters maintained the state's Democratic trifecta.
Washington's Tonians appeared to have chosen all Democrats in our statewide elected official positions. This is an extraordinary statement of confidence in the direction of the state of Washington.
Still, spending a night at the GOP watch party showed that, even in Washington, there's a big appetite for Republican policies and values. And like Thomas said, that's not just relegated to the eastern parts of the state.
I will say Kamala Harris says that they're the party of joy. That was her platform for a little while. I don't see any joy in it. I see joy here. I see people cheering.
That's Eric Kirkbride again.
Here, I feel welcome, and that's the point. Being a Democrat back 20 years ago, they cared about the color of my skin, they cared about my gender, they cared about my sexuality. I'm bisexual. Nothing to be ashamed of. But you know what? It's not my entire personality. It's not who I am. And just because I'm wearing a Trump hat or a 1776 shirt, it's not my entire personality. That's what I think the Republican Party gets. They understand we are human beings. We have many facets of our personalities, of our lives, of our backgrounds, of our heritage. that, we can get along with, period. That's why I'm a conservative.
Of course, there's going to be a diversity of opinion and background among members of any political party. But unifying Republicans enough in Washington to be able to win again statewide, that's an open question. In the next and final episode of The Elephant in the Room, we're looking at where Washington's GOP goes from here.
We have to compete more effectively in the suburbs. We have to rebuild trust with those voters and help them understand that they can rely on us to represent their concerns.
One of the things about Republicans in Washington state is that we've been getting our butts kicked for so long that you almost learn to roll with the punches a little bit, because you have to develop a little bit of a sense of humor, or else how do you continue onward, right?
That's next time on Northwest Reports. Thanks for listening to The Elephant in the Room by Northwest Reports. We'll be releasing the third and final episode in the series on December 18th. This episode was reported and produced by me, Maliha Sayed, and Sarah Bernard. The story editor was Ryan Famuliner. Our executive producer is Sarah Menzies. You can subscribe to Northwest Reports wherever you listen. And whatever platform you're listening on, please review us. We'd love to know what you think of the show. Also, if you would like to support the work we do at Cascade PBS, whether it's our lineup of podcasts, the video docuseries we stream every week, or the in-depth reporting we deliver every day, go to cascadepbs.org/membership. In addition to supporting our journalism, members receive complete access to the on-demand programming of Cascade PBS. For the latest political, environmental, and culture news from the Pacific Northwest, visit cascadepbs.org. That's also where you'll find The Elephant in the Room. Northwest Reports is a product of Cascade PBS. I'm Maliha Sayed. We'll be back soon with another episode.